Hello, I'm NP. Last summer, my friend Chris Edge created a review of Grim Dawn, a top-down action RPG much like Diablo. I think for quite a while, Grim Dawn has been the most favorite game of Chris Edge, my friend. So he became a little bit over-enthusiastic about it. Also, he visited BlizzCon 2018, when the famous "Do you guys not have phones?" moment happened, and it completely destroyed Blizzard for him. So this leaked into his review. Well, it triggered a couple of guys. Despite that, a couple of good discussions were spawned in this video comment section. Still, it was a little polarizing. And with this channel, it's the complete opposite of my goal. You know, being positive, being neutral as much as possible. Chris Edge had a condition that he is free to say what he wants to say about a certain game in his reviews. I agreed that, so this video stays, but after that we had a sort of disagreement about future direction. Finally, Chris departed from the channel. Definitely it's much less fun to do it by myself, but I think it's all about the message, the attitude and the community that you can build. And I try to keep it positive. Anyway, on the subject finally. About myself and Grim Dawn, I think it's not my most favorite action RPG, because Diablo 2 is, but I think it's a great game. I played it like Diablo 2. I made an initial run where I finished the game, unlocking all the map and the stuff with a normal character. Then, when hardcore mode became unlocked, you know, permadeath, I played it this way mainly. It doesn't mean that I'm good at it, no. I will never reach the skill level of Chris in this game. I just guess I enjoy the thrill of hardcore mode better. For ages I just played multi-class characters as sort of minionist, a conjurer or kabbalist. You know, I'm not too good at close contact combat, so I always keep a distance, so I play ranged characters. Snipers, if you like. When we discussed Grim Dawn with Chris Edge, and he heard about it, he said something like, "Man, you haven't explored 5% of this game. It has much more potential." Later, we had a sort of wager. My condition was, if I win, then Chris has to play 10 racing games and spend 10 hours each. You know, he's not really into that. He said, "Fine, but my terms are: play all 9 single-class characters in Grim Dawn the best you can, and you do it in hardcore mode, without using the shared stash. So you can use items that you find during the playthrough. So this way you are forced to build the character, discover the skills and everything." I was absolutely sure that I will win the wager, so I agreed. Well, as it happened, I lost. So that's the story behind this video. So let's see how far I could get with these single-class characters in Grim Dawn. Number 9. Inquisitor. Level 26. The Gunslinger. Well, I suspected much more from this character, especially around the early game. This dual-wielding pistol stuff seemed to be super powerful. I think during the character build I made a mistake. As the Inquisitor is a ranged fighter, I put an emphasis on very high attack, but defense not so much. So as it happened, it was killed by some relatively low-tier boss called Helion the Rat in the Hanafi mine, after Rift 12 in Old Akrovia. By that time I started to develop defense, because this guy had quite a hard time to defeat Warden Krieg around the end of Act 1. Anyway, the fact that the first permadeath happened in Act 2 means that all the single-class characters survived Warden Krieg and Act 1. And that's been quite a surprise to me. You know, I'm not a skilled Grim Dawn player, even if I like this game. I believed that Warden Krieg will kill all my close combat fighters, and only minionist and ranged classes will survive. Well, I was wrong. Number 8. Occultist, level 28, the minionist. Well, this is the biggest surprise to me and also the biggest disappointment. You know, during my previous character builds I always used the occultist. It was one half of my multiclass character. I usually mixed it with another minionist, like a shaman or a necromancer. I used ranged attacks only, so I was quite confident with my occultist playthrough. I believed it will be top 3, or even the best, outliving all the others. The fact that I died so early with this one, and again defeated by a rather weak boss called Queen Ronaprax in a location called Steering Hive around the Rocky Coast, somewhere after Rift 11. So considering the distance traveled, even the Inquisitor defeated the occultist, because the Inquisitor died after Rift 12, but I made a ranking based on the character level. Anyway, you just shouldn't let your guard. You can lose even if you use your most favorite character, just like anytime if you are not aware enough. Number 7. Oathkeeper, level 28, the homing projectile man. Well, as strange as it sounds, this Spartan-like fighter is actually a ranged fighter, not a close combat one. Well, at least as far my character development goes. I think on the way to find the best method of fighting with the Oathkeeper, I had to reroll 3 times. I mean the skills. But after that, you know, this throwing shield, bumping from opponent to opponent proved to be quite effective. So actually I could zip through Act 1 quite quickly with the Oathkeeper. You know, I ran through the same stations with each character, and I think the Oathkeeper was one of the quickest ones. Still, when I reached the pit after Rift 12, I could successfully bite the dust. I think I could successfully defeat the resident boss called Boris, but there was another one that could execute my character with one single blow. It had a very strange name. Rect Biprotos YT. It sounds like a YouTuber, does it? You know why? Because he is a real person, creating a lot of content about Grim Dawn. So out of respect, he became included in Grim Dawn as a boss. How cool is that? Well, dying by his sword was not so cool, but anyway, it's a great thing. Number 6. Nightblade, level 29, the ninja. So despite the fact that it's a ridiculously powerful close combat character, using dual wielding swords and throwing weapons, some shurikens or something, it's much like the assassin from Diablo 2. So if you like slice and dice your opponents, it's your guy or girl. Despite the fact that these melee sort of characters are not really for me, still it was a very comfortable playthrough. The Nightblade cut through enemy waves just like a hot knife through butter. I think most probably it would reach Act 3 and the town of Homestead. Instead, I was defeated in the Acrovian Coliseum by the, 3-story high boss called Karnath Chillblood. You can find this location after defeating Darius Cronley. You just have to keep going eastwards after Rift 14, after reaching the area called Twin Falls. So, trying to kill Karnath Chillblood with your bare hands or melee weapons is not the brightest idea. So even slicing and dicing through opponents proved to be quite a big fun, even to me, who don't really use these sort of characters. Still, it's a good idea to keep some sort of ranged option as well. My Nightblade had some sort of shuriken or throwing knife attack as well, but it was too weak. So sometimes it's better to bring your gun and keep the distance. Number 5. Shaman, level 30. The Dog and Gun Hunter. Well, actually, it feels like a shotgun guy with a sort of demonic dog. Actually, it's not a dog, it's some sort of woodland creature called briarthorn or something like this. But anyway, playing this class feels like hunting quite much. You point, your beast attacks the opponent, and you finish the job with your gun. Actually, the shaman has quite a brutal gun modifiers. By that mean, it's a little bit similar to the Inquisitor. It's quite a brutal fighter. And I'm somewhat skilled with it, as I tend to mix the shaman with other minionists when I play Grim Dawn with a multi-class fighter. Still, it wasn't enough to survive the Acrovian Coliseum. I was killed by the same monster as the Nightblade. My shaman was killed with one single blow. Maybe I didn't focus too much on defense. I don't know. Chris Edge has a system for character builds, focusing on defense against different attack types, but I never went too deep into it, exposing all the possibilities and mechanics behind. I just play a game, have fun, get bored of it, and play another. And maybe I return later. I'm quite an average player. Gaming is my hobby, but I enjoy diversity. So for me it's quite impossible to spend, 2,000 hours with a game that Chris admittedly done with a Grim Dawn. Number 4. Soldier, level 32, the invisible shotgun guy. So despite that basically it's a melee character, if I understand Chris's description right. Still, it has a skill called Force Wave. It functions as some sort of shotgun with a massive radius of impact and huge damage. So the most effective way of playing this class, for me at least, was like force waving the hell out of everyone. My way of playing the soldier was like taking everyone out from the mid or close range, just like using a shotgun, and anyone that came too close became chopped into two with some brutal close combat weapon, like a two-handed axe or something like this. In the practice, this class was quite effective. Around the early game, the soldier felt like to be the weakest fighter, to me. But later on, when the skills started to scale up, it started to change. So by the time I reached Warden Krieg, it was easy peasy to kill him. In the Acrovian Coliseum, it could even kill Karnath Chillblood, who took the lives of two very powerful characters before. As I've mentioned, I walked on the same path with every character in this challenge. Actually, the actual route was set by Chris Edge. So thanks buddy by luring my single-class guys into deadly traps. Thank you. Let's talk when you finished your first Rally Championship in EA Sports WRC. So my powerful soldier was killed by Narenkur in the Corrupted Tomb. It can be found around the Broken Hills if you go north. You can find some old Acrovian ruins there and a door leading to some underground maze. In the depth there is Narenkur who killed my soldier with a single blow. So when it comes to powerful bosses, just keep on ducking. Number 3. Demolitionist. Level 33. Bazooka Bill. Around the start of this journey, I didn't realize that this guy is actually such a ranged fighter that turns simple guns into rocket launchers. Also, this guy has a sort of flamethrower skill, so you can decimate your enemies from long to mid-range by blasting them to pieces, and anyone who is unlucky to come close enough will be burned to ashes. I think from the enemy's point of view, the Demolitionist is one of the most frightening fighters. On my journey, I was lucky because I could collect a set of brimstone items, all 3 of them. So besides having a very powerful gun, the complete set provided skill boost for the Demolitionist. So it was unstoppable. Well, almost. But after Rift 16 in an underground dungeon called Smuggler's Pass, Facing a giant called Voldrak, I just wasn't careful enough, so this beast could kill me with one single blow. I should have been more careful, and maybe put a little bit more points into defense. But make no mistake, even if I could blow it, the Demolitionist is one of the most powerful guys in Grim Dawn. Number 2. Arcanist. Level 37. The Frag Blessed Beast. Well, after playing Grim Dawn, apart from a couple of exceptions, I think it's true for all the characters that they are not what they seem to be. About the Arcanist, I believed, okay, this is our sorcerer. Well, it is, because it uses magic. But in the practice, it plays like a demolition guy, using ice blasts. So it's not a normal sorcerer, but a sort of grenadier, having attacks that are virtually frag grenades. So, a class in a typical action RPG that I'm much worse, even much worse than with melee characters, is a sorcerer class. Any kind of magic users. I always have ranged fighters or minionists, but in Grim Dawn, in Chris's hardcore challenge, it could reach very far, giving a lot of my favorite classes a run for their money. On the battlefield, this guy was unstoppable by freezing super powerful enemies, slowing them down and then shredding them to pieces with this frag missile sort of thing. It's insanely effective. So, the fact that I ended up pushing up the daisies with this one reveals that I should have spent more points on defense again. Chris kept on saying that there are, I don't know, 10 different damage types and you must be equally protected against all of them, otherwise you will bite the dust. There's even a tool that helps you to navigate through all the items, skills and stuff. But honestly, I just have no patience for all of that. So somewhere after Rift number 22, in the area called Blood Grove, my Arcanist called Arca finally met her fate. She was gunned down by Bolivar, who used various damage types. In the case of the 3 last standing guys in this challenge, I recorded videos. Without it, I wouldn't even know what actually happened, because it happened so quickly. Watching the replay, I could realize that I was hit 5 or 7 times by very powerful bolts that came so quickly that it was just sort of impossible to dodge. So if you don't have the actual damage type maxed out, I mean the defense value, then you are just fucked up in such a situation if you play hardcore. Number 1. Necromancer. The Walking Deadminator. Level 38. Still alive. So, despite the fact that this single-class Grim Dawn challenge brought a lot of surprises to me, still the class that survived the longest was not surprised at all. For some reason, I don't know, I tend to last the longest in action RPGs using Necromancer characters. My most favorite hardcore playthrough happened a little bit more than 20 years ago, playing Diablo 2. I was quite much into it back in time. So, as it happened, I could run 2 complete playthroughs with a single Necromancer character called Necropolo, named after my Commodore 64 Sinner handle. So this guy was sort of immortal in this game. The playstyle where minions do all the heavy lifting and I help them seemed to fit me quite well. And it was quite the same with other action RPGs. If they included this class, then I could quickly turn it into a walking deadminator. In Grim Dawn, I tended to mix these minionist classes, like a shaman and a necromancer, or an occultist and a necromancer, and they became very powerful quite soon. So in Grim Dawn, in the challenge, I used this class as a ranged minionist, exactly the way I played a multi-class character. Playing a necromancer in a single-class mode was almost the same. So I could use familiar tactics, familiar skills. Besides, I have a soft spot for walking deadminators anyway, so it came no surprise that this guy survived the longest. So that concludes this little challenge that happened because I lost a wager against Chris Edge, and me playing Grim Down was his terms. It took a much longer time than I suspected, because, I'm not too skilled in this game. Still, even if I had to use unfamiliar tactics, I could stay alive much longer than I suspected. So the estimated 200 hours that I spent in this game previously still sort of paid off. This challenge added 200 hours to my playtime, so did it change something? Perhaps yes. Despite that, I still regard Diablo 2 as my most favorite action RPG. On the way, I became a fan of Grim Dawn. I think I'm just as excited as Chris Edge about the coming Fangs of Astrakarn DLC. And even if I had my healthy dose of Grim Dawn last year, still from time to time I return to it. So it's great. Try if you haven't. I think saying something that, wow, this is the best, is absolutely pointless, because best how? Best for whom? By what criteria? So this who's bigger thing is absolutely stupid, I think. And you must be aware that Diablo, the series, the franchise, started it all. So they have been and they will always be the prime predators of action RPGs. I'm saying that even if I didn't enjoy Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 as much as Diablo 2 or Grim Dawn, for instance. The truth is, you can find a lot of very interesting action RPGs if you are open to try new things. Of course, it's not some general truth, only my subjective opinion, but for example, Van Helsing has the best story and the best voice acting among all of them. Victor Vran feels like a race car because it feels insanely good with a controller. Or think about The Path of the Exile. What a massive game! If you enjoy complexity, then you get it there. Or the science fiction game The Ascent. Combining action RPG rules with a dual-stick shooter, well, it's a great idea. And even if you say no for new things, still you have 4 Diablos to choose from. When it comes to gaming, I think we are living in a great time. And despite that I'm a boomer, near 50, still I don't understand people complaining about shit like, oh, gaming is not good anymore, it's not fun anymore. But you know what? You just lost your ability to enjoy things. And that's it. If you wish to regain your passion in virtually anything, then as a first step, just try to stop being a grumpy shit. If you can notice only the negative sides of things, then you will always kill your fun in everything. So even if a certain thing has just a couple of negative things, people tend to amplify it to planet size, completely disregarding all the positive aspects. Nothing is perfect. Not me, definitely. Not you, not anyone, not anything. It's all about noticing and appreciating the good things over the bad ones. Honestly, that's the key. Not only for gaming, but for anything. Life is a gift. Enjoy it, because it won't last forever. NP out. See you somewhere in time.